Mat Waugh, The Fun Factor, and we're up to chapter 26, The Big Pretend. We got no further forward with Dad. He stonewalled our questions, saying he hadn't a clue where they'd gone, and it was none of our business anyway. As I plodded upstairs a little while later, I spotted the carrier bag of sweets still hidden behind the shoe rack. We hadn't been back to Enid since. What would be the point? A spy might turn up at any moment, and we couldn't get past the handprint scanner to investigate. I looked inside and ate one of the jelly toes out of the half-open packet, hopefully not one that Reggie had been squishing like modelling clay. I stopped dead on the stairs, struck by an idea, a big idea. Reggie, Reggie, I called, bursting into our bedroom. Where's your play pack? Dunno, said Reggie, who was trying to stack up drafts counters as high as he could. Under the bed, maybe.
What a draft?
Drafts, it's like, you use it on a chessboard. It's a board game. Similar to, it's just small counters that you play.
So.
I fished out his brown envelope and tipped the contents onto Reggie's bed. Hey, that's mine. Forget about that. I know how to get past the scanner at Enid's. I need your plasticine. What about yours? He protested. Yep, I need that too, I said, fetching it out of my bedside drawer and replacing it with the sweets. Right, come with me and don't say a word. Downstairs, Reggie followed me into the kitchen where Dad was washing up. Do we have a big baking tray or something like that, Dad? I thought you were off to bed, but sure, he said, passing one from the cupboard. And a rolling pin. Yep, that too. He passed one across and tilted his head to one side. What are you two troublemakers up to? Homework, I said. Nearly forgot. We are doing a project at school about famous people. I thought you were doing the Tudors, said Reggie. No, that's next week, I said, kicking him hard and making a face. And you need a baking tray for what exactly? Dad asked, puzzled. You'll see. Here, Reggie, you can help too. Roll your pack into squares, I said. I took a pickle jar from the recycling so I could roll my pack at the same time. How big? Asked Reggie. About as big as, I tried to think of something the right size. A book. We rolled and patted until we each had 4 squares, which I carefully transferred to the baking tray in a checkered pattern, watched by a curious Dad. Okay, so now what? Said Reggie. We're nearly done. All we need now. I was interrupted by the sound of voices. Hey look, Melissa's back already, said Dad. And Shannon too, double the fun. The pair burst through the front door, laughing about something as if they were sisters. You should have seen them. It was hilarious, screeched Shannon as they came into the kitchen. She took a carrot from the fridge and started eating it noisily, smacking her lips and saying, yum, a lot. Back to the bad acting. Hey, what's with the crafty stuff? Well done, guys. What is it? It's famous people homework, I said, gritting my teeth. I'll give you a clue. Hollywood. Nope, said Shannon, crunching away. No idea. I do, said Melissa, smiling. Butterflies dancing in my tummy. This could be about to go horribly wrong. You've made the Walk of Fame, haven't you? Well, all those movie stars. Oh, you've made the Walk of Fame, haven't you? Where all those movie stars get their photos taken. Yes, I said, with a relieved smile. So Reggie, press your hand into this square and I'll write your name underneath. I grabbed Reggie's wrist and pressed it in. Not bad, a bit squidgy, but it was only a practice. Right. They all have to be different to look good, so I'll have a go, I said. That was much better. A nice crisp outline of my hand. Okay, that works. I pretended to admire my homework. Who's up next? Melissa and Shannon, can you help? Shannon was straight over, flicking her hair, taking pretend selfies and acting like she was a movie star. Dad was next, then Melissa. Just one slot left. I pretended to scratch my head. Melissa, do your other hand so it looks different. Rightio, all sorted, asked Dad. Yep, I said, admiring our handiwork. Right off to bed, the pair of you. Night, Dad, I shouted, carrying my tray carefully up the stairs. We lay on our beds and read. It wasn't massively comfy because our lovely soft duvets had been replaced by sheets and scratchy woolen blankets. Dad had said they were better for you, but when we asked he why, there's a mistake there on page 171, asked he why, just pointing that out. But when we asked he why, it says on the page, but when we asked why, He laughed and said because somebody said so. It didn't seem very funny in the middle of the night when the sheets were all wrapped around your legs and the blanket had slipped onto the floor. I tried to read again, but it didn't last long. I sighed and shuffled and coughed a bit, but I couldn't get Reg's attention. He lay on his back with his knees in the air, reading Harry Potter between his legs. It looked extremely uncomfortable, but it didn't seem to bother him. It was getting late and dark. Dad had gone out for a run. That's how keen he was these days, running into the night. I went downstairs for a glass of water, more for something to do than anything else. The lights were off, except in the kitchen where I could hear Melissa tapping on a laptop. She was facing away from me as I entered, her computer screen filled with numbers as usual. "Hi, Melissa." I saw her shoulders tense, and she moved her left hand suddenly. I heard a rustling noise. "What were you doing?" I asked, walking around. Melissa had her head down, long hair hanging over her face. Nothing," she muffled. "Hey, what's that?" I said, pointing out of the corner of a shiny blue wrapper that was poking out from underneath her laptop. She put her hand over it. "Is that a toffee tangle wrapper?" Melissa looked up through her hair. There was a twinkle in her blue-green eyes and a bulge in her cheek. "Maggie," she said, through her chewy mouthful. "What? How come you?" Melissa was out of her seat in a flash before I could shout the house down and put her finger on my lips. "Not a word," she whispered, before taking my hand. "Hang on, look the other way for a second," she said. And so I did, straight out of the kitchen window, at a perfect reflection of the room behind me. Melissa clambered up on the worktop and reached behind the camera before jumping down, stealthily as a cat. "Right, we're good." She led me over to the boiler cupboard, reached up on tiptoes and fished out another familiar blue packet. "I'll share my emergency supplies with you," she said, "just this once." We sat at the table in silence. The toffees were soft and the heat from the boiler. The tangles had collapsed, and I used my teeth to scrape them out of the paper. "That was delicious," I said, as Melissa...
Out of the wrapper.
Oh, sorry, out of the wrapper, yeah. "That was delicious," I said, as Melissa typed away. "Can I have some more?" "You ate the last one," she said without looking up. "Maybe Dad has some more." "No," Melissa's voice suddenly had a sharp edge. She looked hard at me. "That was a little slip, the last of the bad stuff." Her voice softened. "I'll do more cooking," she said. "I'll make sure your dad doesn't make any more hot pots." She grinned. "They're worse than the new school dinners, and that's saying something," I said. They don't seem to be doing you any harm. "You're doing really well," said Melissa. "Great results in your maths test last week, and your spellings are better now too." I frowned. "How do you know that?" I looked at Melissa's laptop. In a smooth, swift movement, she closed the lid. "Have you got that on your computer?" "What? No," said Melissa. I bumped into Mrs. Scott in the shop. Anyway, if you go on like this, you'll find high school a breeze." "Yeah, I guess so." I wondered whether Mrs. Scott told everyone about our test results in the shop. "Mrs. Scott said you haven't used the reflection room for a while." "Nobody does," I said. "Reggie says," but I stopped. Melissa was looking at me. "Yes, what does he say?" "Oh, nothing, doesn't matter. You know it takes a while to get used to new things, don't you, Thora? What seems usual now soon becomes normal. And then you start to realise why it's better." I didn't say anything. This sounded like code to me. I wished Izzy was there to help me work it out. "It may take a while, but you'll realise someday that these days are, well, they really are the best days of your life, and you're right in the middle of some very exciting times." Okay, this was definitely code. Exciting was the last word I'd used to describe life. At that moment, we heard the front gate clink. Dad was back. "Quick, upstairs, before your dad comes in. And remember," said Melissa, shoving a wrapper into her pocket, "not a word. Wouldn't want Dad thinking we didn't like his hot pot." "Okay, night-night," I said. Melissa pulled me close for an awkward kiss cuddle. I padded out into the hall before stopping. There was no way Melissa could stop me saying goodnight to my dad, so I closed the kitchen door, sat on the bottom step in the gloom and waited. "Hello, Pickles," said Dad when he flicked on the light switch and saw me. "I thought you'd be in bed." Dad slipped off his trainers and sat down next to me. Not quite, just going." I reached over and patted his belly. "It's definitely getting smaller," I said. "It's like someone is letting the air out of a space hopper. You smell sweaty though." "Ah, Thora, What you give with one hand, you take with the other. He leaned in and gave me a kiss. He frowned. You smell nice. Sweet. I said nothing. Right, be gone, he said, giving me a push up the stairs. I need a drink and a shower, I said. He stuck out his tongue, hauled himself to his feet using the banister, and opened the kitchen door. Honey, I'm home, he said, and pulled the door shut behind him. Chapter 27, Midnight Mission. But I didn't go upstairs. I didn't go anywhere. I know it's wrong to eavesdrop, but Melissa had been trying to tell me something and I wanted to work out what it was. So I sat there in the dark, knees to my chin, listening. For a few minutes I could hear Dad filling his glass and talking about his day. He had problems with one of the production lines. He'd spotted one of Ed's sheep loose down by the gully on the cycle back. The village car park was overflowing and they needed to do something about it. I was about to give up when it got interesting. I think Thora might still have some sweets knocking around, said Dad. I could smell them on her. Ah, yes, said Melissa. That might be my fault. Oh, said Dad, burping. She caught me with a toffee tangle just now. Oh, come on, Melissa, that's not on. We'll get fined for starters, and they're not good for her. Ooh, listen to you, said Melissa. Mr. Converted. And we won't be fined. I put the camera on privacy mode. Hang on, I thought your phone was in lockdown. It is. There's an override switch at the back of the cameras. Well, that's one good thing, said Dad. I'm counting on this week's money. I've almost saved enough for an ensuite bathroom. Viewing figures are up again, he said. Biggest audience yet at the weekend, Shannon told me. Of course she thinks it's all her work. She would, said Melissa. Viewing figures, Shannon, audience. It was all so confusing I could scream. The school data looks good too, said Melissa. Up across the board, all subjects and aerobic fitness too. What? Said Dad, through a mouthful of something, probably banana. I don't know, said Melissa. I can't help thinking we're seeing what we want to see. It's not as if the kids are radiating happiness, is it? That's quite a change of heart from you, isn't it? And anyway, I wouldn't know, said Dad. I barely see them. They're always out and about, which is a good thing, I should say. I see more of them than you, she said. And remember, there's always the break clause if we need it. No way, said Dad. We've been through this. We need to give back. What, half of the fee? Melissa murmured her agreement. And then you've still got to find somewhere else to live until the end of the trial. No way. We're in this until the end. I'm surprised you're talking that way, to be honest. There was silence. You're right, said Melissa. It's been a long day, and I think Thora knows more than we think. We need to keep an eye on her. Oh, I doubt it, said Dad. I didn't tell her anything when she was just asking about you and Shannon earlier, and she's a happy-go-lucky sort. Are you heading out? Yes, said Melissa. I'll just check in, make sure everything's set up. Won't be long. Okay, see you in bed. I need a bath. I was up the stairs and into the bedroom in seconds. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, thinking, listening to Reggie's breath. From outside... Thank you, Rachel. Listening to Reggie's breathing. Listening to Reggie's breathing. From outside, the familiar whining sound faded in and out like a mosquito. I peered into the gloom and, as expected, the grey, moonlit streets were empty of people and cars, just charcoal shadows. Smears of black and an occasional puddle of light from a kitchen window. I climbed back into bed. Melissa was right about one thing. I did know more than she thought. None of it made any sense, but I knew where we would find the answers. I set my alarm clock and closed my eyes. I was on a roller coaster, looping up and down and round, but the coaster was getting rougher and rougher, jiggling me this way until I thought I was about to fall out. Bells were ringing and the crowd below were chanting my name, Thora, Thora. I woke with a start, opening my eyes to see Reggie's face in the gloom. He was shaking me hard by the shoulder. Thora, Thora, your alarm clock. The clock had somehow slipped down the side of my bed. I shook myself awake and fished it out. Hey, Reggie, I whispered. He stopped halfway back into bed. Where are you going? Come on, I need your help. I pulled the bag of sweets out of my drawer, pushed it up my nightie and led Reggie downstairs to the kitchen, feeling my way. Closing the door, I worked my way around the worktop until I reached the corner. "Hold this," I whispered directly into Reggie's ear, pushing the bag into his arms. I could feel him trembling. I climbed up and reached up towards the ceiling in the pitch black, working my hands up the wall. At first I thought I might have got confused, but then my hands found it. A plastic sphere. I followed my fingers to creep around it. There I found it. At the back, right by the wall bracket, a small switch that slid sideways with a click. "Right," I said, dropping to the floor and turning on the light over the hob. I tipped the contents of the bag over the table. "I need all the jelly toes we've got." Following my lead, Reggie sorted the packets of hands and tipped them into the saucepan. I reckon we had about 100. I had no idea if that was enough, but would soon see. Turning the heat to low, I handed a wooden spoon to the bleary-eyed Reggie. "Keep stirring them. I'll be back in a minute." By the time I returned with a tray of plasticine, the jelly toes were melting into each other, colours spiralling into rainbow whirlpools. "Thora, what are we doing?" he whispered. "It's like something I saw on YouTube once." "Right, looking good," I said, taking the pan from Reggie. As steadily as I could, I poured the molten sweet mixture, now a murky brown colour, into a handprint that had an M scratched in the corner. You could feel the heat rising from the liquid, and the metal tray started warming up. There was enough to fill 4 hands in the end, both of Melissa's and mine and Dad's. I washed up the pan carefully and stuffed the empty wrappers into Reggie's pyjama trouser pockets as he waited patiently. The jelly tray had now cooled enough to hold, but the contents still shimmered and wobbled with every touch. I threw a tea towel over it. That would have to do. "You get the door and the lights," I said, jumping up onto the work surface and flicking the switch on the camera. With Reggie ahead, I carried the tray upstairs like an unexploded bomb. In the grey light of the early morning, I slid the tray onto the sill outside my bedroom window, shut the curtains and flopped back into bed. Chapter 28, Up the Stairs. Next day after school, the four of us stood in Enid's front room in front of the poem on the wall. The last rays of the sun were dancing on the ceiling. We had to wait for ages for Izzy. I couldn't get away. I tried the Sicilian defence, but Mum... Sorry, I'm losing all this. The next day after school, the four of us stood in Enid's front room in front of the poem on the wall. The last rays of the sun were dancing on the ceiling. We had to wait for ages for Izzy. I couldn't get away. I tried the Sicilian defence, but Mum came back with the Yugoslav attack, she had explained. "Chess," I mouthed to Reggie and Charlie, who was wriggling back into his t-shirt. He'd done his cat flap thing again to get us in. I pulled my school project out of the white carrier bag and gently peeled Melissa's jelly hand, complete with jelly fingerprints, out of the plasticine mould. I swung the picture frame to one side. "So then," I said, who wants to do it?" Reg took Melissa's hand, but as he was about to place it on the sensor, he gave it back to me. "It's your idea, Thora. You do it." I took a deep breath and raised it up. "Wait," said Izzy. "What if there's someone up there?" "I hadn't thought of that." "Like who?" said Reggie, though he sounded a bit nervous. "I don't know," said Izzy. "One of the spies, I guess." We were all silent. There were a few distant cries from the play park, but nothing more. "It'll be fine," I said. "I'm not sure," said Izzy, but it was too late. I slapped the floppy brown hand onto the sensor, squidging each finger onto the glass. With a mechanical click, the old lounge door, the one that looked like it hadn't opened in a decade, clicked open. "Welcome, Agent 462, said the silky voice. We looked at each other and a shiver passed amongst us. Through the door, stairs rose up to the landing. We could see the same well-worn flowery yellow carpet and tatty wood-chip wallpaper as downstairs, but we could also hear a distinct electrical hum. We could almost smell the technology. Reggie hesitated. As the eldest in the room, it was time for Thora Batty to take the lead. I flicked the light switch, but nothing happened. I probably would have stopped right there, but the others were pressed up behind me. So we stumbled up into the gloom with just the dim light from the lounge to guide us. The stairs creaked like you'd expect old stairs to do. When we reached the landing, I stopped and everyone else bumped into me like an episode of Scooby-Doo, pushing me forward. "Oi, shh," said Izzy. "Now, there's nobody here," said Charlie. At the moment anyway. "Come on, Reggie, let's explore." 3 rooms led off the landing, all the doors ajar, taped to the cracked, yellowing paintwork were handwritten signs. To our left, studio. The room was dark. Straight ahead was gallery, and a faint green glowing light was visible through the crack. And to the right, a sign saying the Panopticon, with a smiley face drawn underneath it. From that door, a flickering white light shone out across the landing. I hesitated. Reggie pushed past me and headed for the door to the studio. He pushed it open with the toe of his shoe, as if he expected to be greeted with wild dogs or something. Izzy and I headed for the gallery, but our first view on entering was in fact of Reggie, because the whole of one wall was a tinted glass panel looking directly into the studio. Reggie flicked on an oversized light switch and bright lights flooded the room. The studio had obviously been one of the bigger bedrooms, but it had been completely transformed. The walls were painted in bright blues and greens with smooth black tiles on the floor. Against one side of the room were 2 bright orange sofa positions in a V shape with a glass coffee table between them. On the wall behind the sofas was a stencil of a huge white and very familiar FF logo. Above it, neon pink letters spelled out "The Fun Factor." Facing the sofas were 2 enormous TV cameras mounted on wheels, one in each corner. Charlie pushed past Reggie and threw himself onto one of the orange sofas. "I'm on the tally," he shouted, making faces at the cameras and jumping up and down like a monkey. Reggie joined him for a wrestle. It must be something about sofas that makes boys do that. I stood rooted to the spot, trying to make sense of it all. Without warning, a deep, booming voice filled the studio. "Boys, stop mucking around." We all jumped. Reggie looked up in surprise, overbalanced, and fell off the sofa, dragging Charlie after him. "Boys, behave or I'm sending you to Frosty." The deep voice that rumbled from the speakers near the ceiling cracked and was followed by a giggle. I looked to my left where Izzy had her finger on a microphone, grinning. The gallery was much smaller, a single bedroom at best. The floorboards were bare. You could still see remnants of pink wallpaper near the ceiling, and the old window was boarded up. A desk ran along one wall with 3 chairs on casters. A box sat in the corner. Spare Wi-Fi cameras had been scrawled on the lid. I took a peek inside, but the sight of dozens of disconnected grey cameras like a hall of eyeballs gave me the creeps. I shut it again quickly. Izzy plonked herself down in the middle. Through a big pane of glass we could see the boys up to their tricks again on the sofa. "Look," said Izzy, "it's a one-way mirror. You can see the boys, you can give the boys the willies doing this." She pressed a button on the base of the microphone and made ghost noises, but the boys in the studio had worked us out and took no notice. I flopped down into a chair and span around. An A4 sheet was tacked to the wall. "Fun Factor, audience figures, provisionally." I peered at the bar chart underneath, trying to make sense of it, but there was a quicker way. "Izzy, help me out. What does this mean?" Izzy saw the chart and smiled as you'd greet a long-lost friend. "So it's showing the audience figures for a programme called The Fun Factor since the start of the series," she said. "It looks like it's on every day, at 7:30 Monday to Fridays, and then 6:30 on the weekends." I nodded. That made sense. The only thing you could watch at any time on any channel was a nature documentary. No, the only thing you could watch at that time on any channel was a nature documentary. We hadn't noticed until one day a sports commentator was cut off mid-race and replaced by a blue whale. And then, wow, there's a lot of people watching. About 12 million for the launch, then 8 million views in the first week, and now Izzy traced her finger across the y-axis to make sure. It's up to about 23 million. 23 million! That was half the country. What's Shannon got to do with this? Asked Izzy. What do you mean? Someone's written her name on it about 2 weeks ago, just before the figures jumped up. I shrugged. One mystery at a time, I thought. I turned my attention to the switches and sliders. They were all labelled, but few of the labels made much sense. The power button was obvious enough. A red light and a soft hum announced that it was working. I tried one of the sliders to see what it felt like. White noise gradually filled the room, like a swarm of bees. Not very nice. I tried another and was unnerved by the sound of people laughing hysterically, on and on without tiring. Louder and louder they got as I moved the slider upwards until it sounded like we were living in my worst nightmare. Turn it off, yelled Izzy, pressing her hands against her ears, and I pushed the sliders back down to 0 and pressed the power button. Also on the desk was a tatty red lever arch folder. It was labelled with a hand-drawn FF logo and a scroll title Fun Factor Series Playbook. I flicked through. There were dozens of see-through plastic folders. The first was labelled Launch Week. Inside I could see scribbled notes and photos. I pulled out the photos first and flicked through. A Google Earth image of our village, a shot of the play park taken back before it was rebuilt, the dairy car park, the village bike racks, the front of Rain and Shine Academy. That was one that stuck to the one that stuck to the next photo. That one was stuck to the next photo, so I peeled them apart with my fingernail, and what I saw made me feel physically sick. It was a picture of my family. Yep, I'm going to stop there. I have to stop there, Luke.